Oh, hi. It never stops. I'm watching videos about kick drum microphones. Oh, brother. Hi, everybody. What's happening? Who's here today? Good day, party people, says Stephen Douglas. I agree. And you guys are talking about my thumbnail. Yeah, I got a cool new guitar this week. I'm so stoked. Stealth Parrot says, so I just found out Chris Cornell has a new album of covers released by his family. Covers cut in 2016. Heard a couple of songs. That's right. I haven't looked at the track list yet, and I wonder if there's an ELO song on there or not, because I heard that one. I was going by the studio when he was making the record here in LA. He did it at Henson here in LA with Brendan O'Brien producing. And I went there a few times to give guitar lessons to his kids. And so I would be up in Brendan's office upstairs, actually, while they were downstairs working, giving guitar lessons. And, you know, that was one of the last times that I really got to hang out with him, was really during that time, because then he got busy after that. I saw him one more time in early 2017, but like when he was there making the record, I remember going there and, like, you know, a couple of nights we ordered out dinner, we got Thai food and stuff like that. And I remember sitting around in the kitchen at Henson and stuff like that, and everybody eating and talking with the family and stuff. So it's good memories. And I remember he took me in. I didn't hear a lot of it, but he took me into the studio and played me the ELO tune. I remember hearing that and snippets of some other stuff that they were in there working on. So it was cool. It was neat. You know, he was it's funny. He was like kind of private about, like, when he was working on records and stuff, I didn't get to hear a lot of that. Like when he was doing Higher Truth and stuff, but then he'd send, when it was done, you know, I think he wanted it to be like done before anybody heard it. And then, you know, like all of us, right? You know, show people stuff when it's half finished or something. So anyways, but he did show me it. And so I wonder if that ELO track is on there or not. I haven't listened to the record yet. I should go listen to it. I'm sure it's great. We did a song when I did the last show that I played with him in, it would have been, was it 2016 or 17? I guess it was it was 2016. January 2016 was the last time we did a gig together. And we did this song called Stay With Me, Baby, that's on that record. I know that one's on there. And it's unbelievable. His vocal on it is like, I was like, dude, are you trying to like cut the most, I remember telling him, like, are you trying to cut the most soulful vocal like ever? Because it is like so deep and great. And that was the song, really. We had to do this gig at the Roxy, and there wasn't a lot of budget for it. I remember that. And I put the band together for the gig. My friend Blair Sant on drums and Jürgen Carlson from Government Mule on bass. And then I got my friend Jeb and Bruni on keys. And there wasn't really budget for that. And I said, don't worry about it. I will take the money out of what you're paying me and pay Jebin so that we can get keys, because there's B3 on that song. And just for that one song, I was like, we have to have a keyboard player for this gig, because we can't just play this gig as a guitar-based drums thing. We're going to need some keys. And then we could use the keys on the other songs and stuff too. And it'll be great on certain tunes if Jebin can play. Because Jebin's amazing. But anyway, so the B3, I was just really wanted that sound on Stay With Me. And you can actually hear a little bit of that on YouTube. There's a little bit of footage of that gig, and probably the only time that song was ever performed live, I think. But it's called Stay With Me. And it's amazing. And I remember playing it. I had so much fun playing it, and really, like, I don't know, just getting into it. But it's just, more than anything, I just wanted to have fun on that gig. It certainly wasn't about making money or anything like that. So I was happy to hire Jebin and pay him part of what I was making so that we could have a good time, you know. What else? What else? Phil asks a good question. He says, hey, Pete, cool channel. I have a Friedman DS pedal. It's the Dirty Shirley. Is the small box pedal very similar? You know, I haven't directly A-B'd them, but I would have to say probably, actually. I've done a video for the Dirty Shirley as well. And I wondered the same thing. Like, how close are they? Because they're both sort of lower gain sounds. I'm sure they're a little bit different. But I would say they're probably the most similar in his line of pedals. Like, there's probably more similarity between the DS pedal and the small box, excuse me, I burped, then the small box, then the BE, which is a higher gain pedal, you know, much more of that modded plexi kind of thing. So John asks, hey, you got great questions today here. If you're looking to replace your Atom monitors, consider the focal. Oh, you're actually making a suggestion. Consider the focal Shape 65. Just got some and liking them. Have you, I wonder, John, if you've used the, we're talking about studio monitors here. I wonder if you've used the Atoms much, because I would love if you had that kind of that experience of the direct comparison between the two. Let me know what you hear. Because I like vocals too. I tried vocals in Japan doing a mix over there. And, you know, it's always weird going into another studio and doing a mix that doesn't have your monitors that you're used to in your room. And then like hoping like, I hope I know what's going on. Like, am I going to end up with a usable mix? And I felt really comfortable on vocals. So I did like it, but I just wonder if you've got a direct experience comparison to the Atoms as well. And if you can offer any advice. Ben is up there and he's somewhere in Europe, broadly in Europe. I like saying that. I don't know why. And he sent me a super chat. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. We've got Agalos. I hope I say your name right. It's and he says hola from Greece. What's up? How you doing? I like Greece very much, and I would like to be there. I would. On an island somewhere in the Mediterranean would be all right. Todd Roy says hello from Nova Scotia. What's up? Heard about a guy from Nova Scotia. The drummer. We were listening to the Charlie Brown Christmas, which is such an astounding recording to me. Still, the whole Charlie Brown Christmas thing. I think they did it in a day with the Vince Gambaldi. Is that his name? Trio. I'm probably totally butchering that. I can't remember the guy's name exactly, but his first name's Vince. I remember that. But anyway, that recording is astounding, and the drumming's great on it. And we looked up who's playing drums on this, you know, and it's a session drummer, and he's still out there doing it. It looks like he's got an Instagram. We found him on Instagram, and some of his last pictures were from a studio in Banff in Canada where he was doing some sessions, and he's cool. He's like in his 70s and he's still posting pictures of his drums and stuff. And but he was the guy that tried to play drums on the Charlie Brown Christmas music, you know, and it's so cool, that recording. It's such a vibe. God, whoever, you know, it's trio, right? I think, and then a choir. And they created such an amazing vibe for probably not even knowing what they were, you know, that they were going to make this music that would, I don't know. I love that music just as much as any music, really. It's like, you know, who doesn't, if you're my age or whatever, that's like your memory of your childhood kind of, is that music has imprinted on your brain, you know? And to go back and listen to it now, always like it sends you to that place, you know? So it's awesome. But anyways, I'm just scanning through the chat here, just looking at different comments and questions. Mark's here from Montreal. What's up there? French Canada. I love that city, Montreal. Oh, a couple people from Zay Blue is here from Canada as well, from Montreal. Nice town, Montreal. Okay, so can I show you my Destroyer? I picked this up this week. Look at this thing. Hell yeah. Oh yeah. And, you know, it was one of those things where I kind of made a deal on it. And then I went, I hope this guitar isn't like 800 pounds. And I hope it isn't a dog and, you know, it doesn't play good or has an issue and it is amazing, man. The neck is amazing. It's great. Like wide, flat, everything you want it to be. And it sounds great and tunes great. It's just a great rock guitar. You've got to hear it plugged in, but it's just solid. And you really hear when you play it, that sound of course, there's the Van Halen connection. And you hear the solid lows and the big full-bodied sound that you hear on some of those tracks. Like You Really Got Me would be to me, it's always like that elusive, like massive distorted sound that's on the intro of that is like, what, why is that so? But it's really, I think it's like largely this guitar over the Strat style guitar it's got this big broad sound. Now this one had the pickups changed. The story behind this guitar is that the guy from TV Jones, who's best known, I think, for making pickups for like Gretsch style, Filtertron style pickups and stuff like that. This was his guitar, I guess. He had it, and then he sold it to the fella that I got it from 25 years ago. And so it's got TV Jones pickups in it because he switched them. Now, TV Jones, I looked on their website, and they only make one standard humbucker like this, and it's a PAF style, 8.3K bridge, that kind of thing. And so I assume that's what's in it, but maybe he had different pickups back then. But whatever they are, they sound great. I mean, like I plugged it in and I was that was one thing I was sort of like, I wish it had the original Super 70s in it. Whatever's in this guitar, it sounds awesome. Like really, really great. In all positions, the middle position's clear. And I used it actually on a demo that I put out a couple days, or yesterday, put out the demo yesterday. And you can hear it in the middle position and I totally didn't do anything that's, hard rock or Van Halen oriented. It was more like a new wave sounding track or something. But you can hear it's great for clean sounds too, is my point, I guess. So other change on it is it's got shallower tuners instead of those ones with the little, whatever, the little mark on the back that you see on the Ibanez. But these are great tuners. And it's also had a brass nut put on. But whoever did it was well done. Nut's great on it. It's actually a little on the high side. Could be a little lower now that I'm looking at it. But it's not bad. And it's clean. So change tuners, change nut, and the pickups have been changed. But other than that, I believe it's all stock. I love it. I actually love it. So I'm going to try Super 70s in it and just see what they sound like. The original pickups. It's kind of interesting, the construction. It is a sandwich body. You can see the right there, the seam, right? So that's how they used to make them, I guess. And it's evidently Japanese sen, which is like ash, Japanese ash. And I don't know, man. I've got an Explorer that's all mahogany, and this one pretty much smokes it. Like, I got to put them back to back still. But the Explorer always sounded kind of dark to me, and like I've always wanted to get a brighter set of, maybe if I put a low output T-top style, pickup in it or something like that. Or maybe it needs ceramic, a hot ceramic that's really sort of sizzly. But what I've got in it is a 14K Alnico 5 kind of hot pickup, and that does not work. Almost JB style. It sounds too mid-rangey and dark. And so that guitar sounds way better. Sorry, I'm like, I think I got allergies or something, sniffling. Anyways, what else? That's that. And I love it, and you'll see it a lot. Didn't realize those are set necks, says Ben. Yeah, like the Rocket Roll V and the Destroyer, they were set. I mean, they did make around that 75, 76 period, the stuff that was coming out of Ibanez, as I understand it, is really pretty stellar, like as far as the set neck designs, even the Les Paul style one and stuff like that. Some pretty cool guitars. But they're hard to find, man. Like 75. I didn't even say it's Ibanez. Yeah, Ibanez Destroyer, right? So, and it's the the Eddie Van Halen thing. Like he played the white. So he had a guitar. You can find pictures of them with this finish around 75. And then by, I think, 76 or 77, for sure, he painted it white. And so when he did Van Halen 1, he played it a lot, and it was exactly like this, but it was painted white. And the only picture I've been able to find of Van Halen 1 that has been circulating around the internet a little bit of the recording, he's playing this guitar. And I think it's while they're recording, maybe Jamie's crying, I think. Brian Kehoe was able to ascertain from the track sheet and the date and everything what song they were recording the day that he was playing. We're such geeks. But anyways, then he cut it into the Shark guitar, right? Where he took the piece out of the end and then put the chain in the middle and all that. And then he evidently didn't like the way it sounded anymore because he took a big hunk of wood out of it. and he didn't think it sounded good. So then he borrowed Chris Holmes' guitar to record Women and Children First for songs that didn't use a tremolo bar. And then after that, I think that was the end of the Destroyer era. I don't think he played it anymore. Maybe he did. Who knows? Maybe he used the one with the cutout, because he's always kept that guitar. So maybe he did use it later. We just don't know on something. Anyways, what else? What else? How did I find it? This is Steven. I found it on Reverb. Actually, it was a fellow on Reverb. I could only find one in the whole US, though, and that was it. There's another one that was advertised at another store up in Canada, but I couldn't. I called them and tried to get. It was a store called Tundra Music. I'll just tell the story because maybe they should know. I called them, left them a message. They never called me back. I called them again the next day and got a guy on the phone. I think I sent them an email too via contact form on the website. Never heard back. Called them and talked to somebody on the phone. And I guess they have multiple stores in Canada, but because of COVID, the stores are maybe closed right now or something. But anyway, I called and I talked to a guy and said, "You've got this guitar advertised on your website." And I spoke to this dude for a few minutes. Nice guy, but he said, "Is it a new guitar?" I said, no, it's a 1976 Ibanez Destroyer, vintage guitar. "Oh, okay, because we got a lot of new Ibanez, but I'm not sure." I said, no, it's one specific guitar that you've got advertised on your website that I'm looking for. "Oh, okay, well, I'll have to, look into that and see." I thought, okay. Nothing, never heard back. Sorry, Tundra Music. Maybe the guitar's on their website and they, like maybe it's already been sold and it's just like they haven't updated the site or something. I don't know, but I thought it odd. I really put in the effort, email, couple phone calls, leaving messages, the whole 9 yards. Couldn't get any information on this guitar. So Tundra Music in Toronto and wherever you are, they got multiple locations in Ontario. Know that wasn't cool. Lonnie says, "Dude, Tundra are the friggin' worst." And Ben says, "Tundra carries a lot of stuff, but yes, can be hard to deal with at times." Well, I wasn't too impressed. That's been my only association with them. So if anybody hears this from Tundra, give me a call and let me know if you've got that other one in stock. And, because I actually know somebody else that's looking for one. I bet it will go soon anyway. It's kind of, just silly. Todd Roy says, "Oh yeah, a bunch of people here are saying Tundra is not happening." Todd Roy, "No good experience with Tundra. I deal with Long and McQuaid." Yeah, Tundra are good people, but not organized, says Richard. Interesting. Just I would have bought it because it was actually a good price and it was all original. I had the pickups and stuff, so I probably would have got it. But this worked out good because it plays amazing. I was able to drive down, pick it up from the fellow myself. He was a nice guy, so it's all good. What was the catalyst or impetus for making you want this particular guitar? It's really just the geek out Eddie Van Halen factor. That's Bruce Black asking that. I just wanted to see what it sounded like. And it's, to be honest, like I have a lot of similar guitars, Super Strat style guitars and stuff and some Les Pauls and stuff, but I really don't have anything quite like this. And just that I wanted to see what it sounded like. It's a unique guitar. Because of the body wood, the ash, it's not a Carina guitar or a mahogany guitar. It's going to sound different than because yes, I'm a toned wood. I mean, I'm a total believer in that the wood makes them sound different. So I had to know what it sounded like. And if it, I recently did that Van Halen deep dive tone video. Now we're going to do a follow-up to that video where we're going to listen to a bunch of pickups. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have that guitar plus maybe a more accurate guitar, Van Halen 1 style, like with so in other words, this is what a geek I am. I know I've got a couple already that are sort of close. There's one sitting right there that you can see. But the problem is it's got a Floyd on it, which wasn't first or second album accurate. And that changes the sound quite a bit. And it's also got a straight humbucker instead of a slanted one. So this is really about trying to, the first couple albums, maybe the first 3 albums, trying to figure out, that exact tone, So to have that guitar, Dave Friedman's got a set of Super 70s that we're going to put in that guitar. So we'll have the exact guitar with the right pickups, right? And we can listen to that and see what it sounds like. Now, since you're asking, how far are we going? Got a set of these guys. This is a company that specializes in aftermarket pickups and really kind of trying to nail the... They send these nice plates that tell you the exact outputs and magnets and all that of the pickups. But this is two different sort of Van Halen inspired pickups. There's a 9.1 or 2K Alnico 2 and a 14.5K Alnico 2. So that would be similar to the EVH 78 style pickup as well as the custom output. So sort of for early and then later tones, supposedly. So we're going to listen to those. I've been assembling all this stuff because I'm crazy. Here's a 59. Got one of those. So we're going to take a listen to that just because that's kind of I think around 83 or 84, when Eddie built the 5150 guitar and all that, I think he was experimenting. Evidently, he listened to a JB and was listening to that. This was supposedly in some of those guitars on the 59, around that era, those 5150 when he was making all those Kramer guitars that he would use, different ones. Custom. That's kind of what he ended up with, I think. And this is actually the spec that I think he kind of really ended up, like the Frankenstein pickup is really, really similar to a custom. And we're going to get one of those too and listen to that. But it's basically 14 point something K Alnico 2. Sort of distortion spec, like almost like either Duncan Custom or DiMarzio Super Distortion, but with an Alnico 2 magnet instead of a ceramic. So we're going to listen to the custom, and here's a custom, which, as you know, really similar to Super Distortion at least in its on paper ceramic 14.1K, ceramic magnet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pickups I've got here. Now there's a bunch more coming. So this video is going to be crazy, and it's going to require help from a tech to switch them all in and out of the guitars and stuff. But we'll figure out a couple riffs is what we'll do. And we will play all the pickups back to back. That's what you'll hear in the video with the, and then at one point, so I want to, as I'm doing that, show the video of that happening and tell you what pickup you're hearing in each. But then I want to back to back do a 2-bar clip of all the audio of all of them and not tell you which one in that part you're hearing. So just a back to back, pickup 1, pickup 2, pickup 3, pickup 4, and you can listen all the way through. And then maybe in the comments, people can say, I like this one the most, and we'll do that as kind of a blind thing. So you'll see the video of all the pickups and it'll tell you which each one is. But then at the end, I'll also just have the audio with a black screen and the text telling you which is which. That's kind of the way I want to do it. Back to back, really fast. And you can listen and go like, all right, I like this one the most, and I'll mix them up in there so that they're not the same order as the video. And then maybe after a month after I put the video out, I'll put the list of what the audio clips are, something like that. Yeah. Todd Roy says, so I assume Sen Ash has properties close to Carina. I don't know really. I kind of don't think it's that similar. I mean, if it's Ash, it's relatively light, that guitar. I don't really know how Sen, as far as is it soft? Is it a harder Ash? I'm not really sure. It's not very heavy, that guitar, though. It's got a great weight, that's really easy to deal with. So, so I think it's a distinct kind of, and it kind of sounds like you would think from an Ash guitar. It sounds a little more, it's really broad sounding. Like the guitar's really got a big sound, like solid lows. But there's a nice scoop in the mids that sounds like what you like through a Marshall, man. It is, or a Plexi style through my PT15 on the distortion channel. It sounds fat but not fat in an overly mid-rangey way. It's just that broad. It sound, like that. You really got me guitar sound. I was just like, oh my god, it's really got that broad, big rock sound. So it's just really cool. Peter Urban is up there in the super chat, and he says, happy holidays. Finally back into a job after COVID break. Chat's good, man. Chasing Knopfler's juicy Reinhard amp tones. Which ones were those? Those like, okay, Reinhardt amp tones. Badger 35 should be close with modified optional tube rectifier. Is that a thing? Is that an... I thought they were all tube rectified. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Suggestions how to go about it. Cheers from Edmonton. What's up there in Edmonton? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, he played a lot of amps towards, later on. He was using, didn't he use Soldano for a while, and then he went to Comet, and then he used, what was it, Reinhardt, I think. Was that the name of those amps? I played one of those. You're taking me back about 18 years now or something, or maybe not quite, but I seem to remember around 2005 or 6, him using an amp that started with R. And is that the name of it? And I had one, and I made a video for the guy, I think, like early days of doing this stuff. We recorded some audio clips maybe. And it was a cool amp. It was an interesting amp. Brad Hawkins says, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of advice for you there, Peter, before I move on what to do. But a Badger 35, I can only tell you what a Badger 35 sounds like to me. It's that Badger 18 on steroids, more headroom. Magic. I think it's probably a pretty good choice, actually. Whether or not it's accurate to what he used, it's a very touch sensitive kind of organic sounding amp and lives in the is it clean, is it dirty zone. That's the sounds that it does best. That's the sound that John was really trying to do with the Badger 18, and then later on the 35, which is a double power 18, really. Was that kind of almost Americana, like Nashville-y, natural compression, not too bright, nice for single note, and I would say sort of Knopfler-y stuff, Like, is it dirty? I can't tell if it's dirty. I think it sounds clean, but there actually is some, it's just a smooth kind of breakup. That's what the Badgers do great. Anybody looking for modded Marshall or like scooped out Fender, I don't think. It's not that amp at all. And it doesn't sound like an AC30 either. It sounds like its own thing. It sounds like a really great edge of breakup is all I can say. So I think, maybe get a compressor. I don't know. I don't know much about what Mark Knopfler used, to be honest. Like his guitar, his pedal boards, or like if he even used pedals. He's one guy, I love his guitar playing, but he's one guy I just never researched that much. But to me, a nice transparent compressor, maybe a Koji, which is the Sur. It's really transparent, actually. It's very smooth. With the Badger 35 should get you in the zone. Those brothers in arms, those are the sounds I always think of. And then I sort of didn't pay much attention after that to although I hear what he does and I think he's an amazing guitar player. But it's those earlier tones and then those sounds on Brothers in Arms and stuff. I think you could get that with a 35 and maybe a little bit of compression, just getting the amp in the zone, setting the power scaling right. Hope that's helpful. Brad Hawkins says he has a 59 in custom. Diver Down 1984 era, definitely closer to 59. I would say that's, I mean, when we think like 1984, even Hot for Teacher was cut on a flying V. That's for sure like a, PAF 8 point something K, either Alnico 2 or Alnico 5, probably Alnico 5, maybe. Those tones, 59. A 59 is a great pickup. There's no doubt about it. It's just like a Sur SSV is a great pickup. They're really similar. It's a 8 point something K Alnico 5 situation that is just a great rock and roll tone. It's a great baseline sound. If you're in any city, pretty much anywhere, you can go to a good music store and they'll probably have a 59 in stock. And if you need a pickup that's a rock and roll humbucker for a guitar that's not too hot, just it's a great option. So like I say, similar to Sur SSV, and then we start getting into all the variations of that stuff. But I've always thought a 59 is a good pickup, you know what you're getting, and it's not gonna suck. It's gonna be good, good rock and roll basic. It's the Chevy truck of pickups. My dad would kill me if he heard me say that because he was a Ford guy. It's the Ford F-150 of pickups, the Duncan 59. It just works. They could use the slogan. I've always thought Boss should use this slogan, but let's not make this harder than it needs to be. The Duncan 59. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. You could say. I've got my own pickup, so I shouldn't be doing all this advertising for. But I mean, anybody would agree, right? We all know this is true. This is basic truth in guitar. The Thornbucker isn't far off, you know. I mean, it said the 59 is going to be balanced coil Alnico 5. My pickup's Alnico 4 with slightly mismatched coils and some other special stuff. But it's like, you know, we're talking about variations on, you know, different shades of tone here. Matt Wise says, last week while talking about amps with IR into DAW, you said something is coming. By chance, were you referring to the new Celestion plugin? No, I don't. Amps with IR into DAW. Did I say something's coming? I don't know what I was just talking about when I said that, to be honest, Matt. I'm sorry. But there is this new Celestion plugin, which is really quite interesting. And I'm messing around with it right now and testing and doing some stuff. And there is something coming that's sort of related to that. So could I be any more elusive and useless to you right now? I'm sorry, Matt. But the Celestion plugin is really interesting, and I'm messing with it, and I will be making a video of it in the near future. L. Scott Music, Lauren is up there, and he says, what would be, in the super chat, thanks, guys. He says, what would be a really nice volume pedal for me to get for a home studio? Smooth, nice options, medium size. The first thing that came to mind is the Ernie Ball, because I have it right here, so I can show it. So, have you guys seen this pedal? It's got a tuner built in. I can show you. For those that haven't seen, I'll power it up, and it's got a tuner built in. And then, so if I plug a cable in, I can show you if I had a guitar. Where's that input? It gives you a visual display of where the pedal is. So, of course, you know, the one fatal flaw is that your foot's going to be on top of it, so you're not going to be able to see that number necessarily, but you're going to be able to see, oh, and then when it goes all the way back here, here's the tuner. So when it's in the back total cut position, you get a tuner, and then as you bring it on, you get a visual representation of where the volume pedal is. Pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. And it sounds great. It's got a buffer in it. So this could be, you know, first thing in your chain, or maybe third thing after a fuzz or something that doesn't like buffers. But it's got an effects loop, send and return, in and out. So it's rad. This thing's great. So good front end for any guitar rig. I'm going to recommend that one to you because it's neat. You thought you were just going to see a volume pedal, but no. I give you more, much more. Rich Monks is up there in the super chat, and he says, help turning into a fuzz guy. I know what you mean. You discovered fuzzes later on in life, like me. I'm like, wait a minute, this is really fun. I have an EQD Black Ash Function FX Cluster Fuzz and Throwback Stonebender. I've only tried the Stonebender out of those. Now I need the best for volume knob roll-off cleanup. Germanium Fuzz Face. Yes. Just which one do you want? You know, probably an Analog Man or the Clinch Audio TX Fuzz does that thing fantastic. I used on the last my run with Classic Rock Show, I used a little Jimi Hendrix one that was like the mini, you know, it's a small size. I thought I had it here. I could show you, but I don't know if it's over there. Anyway, you know, it's got a little picture of Jimmy on it, and it's a small pedal, but it worked quite well. Little Dunlop one, you know, but there's some options. But yeah, it does they'll do the volume knob cleanup thing. Paul Floyd says, got close with custom SH11, and JB is not the Van Halen sound at all. Overrated pickup in general. Yeah, I was talking with Friedman about this, and he seems to think that around Fair Warning, Eddie might have been experimenting with JBs. I'm sure he probably listened. I mean, you know, he's had association with Duncan for a while, you know, like a long period of time, really, and used pickups from them at different times, I think, and custom and stuff. And I would tend to think he at least listened to it and tried it, you know, like Dave says. I don't, you know, who knows what he used. I think the bottom line is what we were able to garner from doing a little bit of research, talking to some people and stuff, is that they were changing stuff constantly. Like he was, and you see that in those guitars. These pickups, like, what? Wait a minute. There's a picture I've seen in, you know, or a picture you'll see. I've never seen that photo before, is what I'm trying to say. And he'll have like a double cream pickup in the the white, black, and red guitar, you know, around Van Halen 2. It's like, what's that pickup? Like, you know, was that the pickup on Van Halen 2? I don't know. You see it in the, you know, before he put the Floyd on the guitar and stuff. So he was constantly changing things and switching magnets and trying things and stuff. And evidently the pickup that went in the black and yellow guitar was a super distortion that he then stuck an Alnico 5 magnet in, I think. Or maybe it was a 2. We don't know. He said he stuck a PAF magnet in a super distortion. And that's the pickup that ended up in the Van Halen 2 guitar. You know, which would make a lot of sense if later on he ended up with a custom, because that's basically what that is at that point. Yeah, JB is not the VH sound at all. Overrated pickup, says Paul. You know, I think they do they're a one-trick pony, but it's a good trick. I'm a positive guy. I'm a glass half full guy. So to me, it's like a one-trick pony, but it's a good trick. It's a good solo distortion situation, a JB. They drive the mids in a way that works well for lead, and you know, but they're not a great pickup for edge of breakup rhythm playing or something. Kind of just it's too much, you know, the mid-range to me. Too hot, too dark. Yeah. You know, Alnico 2, you put an Alnico 2 in, I wonder what a JB is with it. They'd probably make this pickup. It's probably one of their pickups, but a JB spec with an Alnico 2. Wonder what that sounds like. It'd just be weaker a little bit because of the magnet and have the slightly different tone of Alnico 2 as well. And, you know, Matt says, how hard is it to switch the magnet in a pickup? I don't think it's very hard at all. I've never done it, but I think it's got something to do with, you know, loosening the base plate or something, and then you can get the magnet out and slide another one in and try it. So I don't think it's difficult. Yeah, I don't think it's difficult. Bluesman says, what do you think is the future of amps, live and in the studio? I think that amps are always going to be around. You know, I think that there's a bunch of players that don't care to mess around with the digital stuff too much. There's the kind of players that really bond with it, and then there's the ones that don't, and they just want to plug into an amp with some pedals, you know, or maybe no pedals, and just play guitar. So, you know, it depends on who you're influenced by. I guess if you're influenced by Tosin or, you know, even Tosin. God, I just saw an article, like I used him as an example, but I saw an article today, like in Premier Guitar, it says something like Tosin's envy of Yngwie's amps, you know, like Wall of Marshalls, and why he thinks that's cool or something. I haven't read the article, so I don't know exactly what it's about, but I should read it. But Tosin's a great guy, by the way. He was around here a little while ago, and I met him, spoke with him for a while. He's a super nice guy, one of an amazing guitar player. But when I think of guys that are a little bit more in that technical, progressive guitar realm, I think, yeah, they can get with Axe Effects and get with, you know, stuff like that. I think Tosin plays it. I don't know why I used him. I don't even know if he uses Axe Effects. I know Misha does, and those guys, you know. Maybe I'm lumping people into one category. I don't know, which is a terrible thing to do. But you know what I'm talking about. More progressive guitar. Maybe I use Tosin as an example because I think about the guitars he plays, which are very different and forward thinking and stuff. And he obviously has no problem embracing that mentality and direction when it comes to guitar. And a lot of the younger guys or guys that are in progressive metal or that type of, you know, they have no problem doing that. And Godspeed, you know, it's great. It's great because there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff. It's whatever works for you and however you get your sound. So they can embrace the modern, you know, or what's the, you know, the fellow, the Pliny or Nolly, or these different dudes that are like into plugins and, you know, the STL and stuff. I'm going to make a demo for STL, I think, as well. But it requires, you know, it's a certain type of, you know, where it's like a certain mental thing. And then you look at guys like, you know, I don't know, Dan from Black Keys or, you know, White Stripes or you know, any kind of like, I don't know, the Strokes. Those guys aren't going to use, you know, plugins. They're just not, you know, they're going to plug into a Fender amp or a Vox or something and with some pedals. And so I think that it just depends on what you're doing, you know, honestly. I think that it really does. I hope I didn't miss a super chat, but I might have. Anthony Dowell says, "Greetings from Flint. What's up, man? How you doing over there in Flint? I've got a PRS CE22 with Dragon pickups. Apparently, they're highly regarded, but I find them too mid-heavy." I know what you mean. I hear that sound in PRSs. Any recommendations on a pickup that works well in a PRS? I would just go for something PAF. A set of Thornbuckers would be great, to be honest. If you're finding too much mids and you want to get, I can highly recommend my own pickups for what it is that you're describing. And I bet you'll put them in and go, oh, there it is. It's totally different. I don't know. There's other ones out there too that'd be great, but I would try Thornbuckers for that. That's what we made them for: clarity and not too mid-heavy. And guys that are like, I want more of a PIF style thing in my Les Paul style guitar. That was really the, because it was the original thing was it was to make a clearer. Sorry, I had a brain fart. It was to make a clearer, like the old days, like really like to get back to what, I've got a set of pickups in my 335 that don't sound like that hot mid-rangey thing at all, and they're from 1963. So it was to get back to that clarity. Jeff says, actually, Van Halen's original pickups on the first album were a PAF with a shorted coil. Yeah, I don't think that that's true. Not from my research. I think later on, when you watch him play around the Diver Down era, evidently that was the shorted coil era. But there's no way that is the sound on Van Halen 1. Van Halen 1 was, we've gotten into this. We don't have to go over it again, but I've got my own theories about what was used on it. And if you want to get really deep into it, you can check out my Van Halen deep dive video. By all accounts, if you go by the book, it's probably Seymour Duncan rewound pickup in the black and white guitar that was newly rewound, and it's either, I'm going to guess, the Duncan custom spec, or it's what Seymour says, which is the 9K Alnico 2 PAF spec. And then in the Destroyer guitar, it was the Super 70s, which is an Alnico 8 9K thing, its own thing. Later on, though, when he was switching a million pickups and trying a million different things, I totally think it's possible he had the shorted coil thing going on in the Frankenstein guitar. You can hear it in those recordings, like around 82 or 83, I guess 82 really. You can hear some of the live stuff where he's playing incredibly well. Like if you look at anything live from 82, like there's some videos from, I think, oh God, I can't remember the cities, but it's not Fresno. It's like maybe somewhere in Dakotas. And then there's some stuff from Sao Paulo, Brazil that you can find online. And he's got very little gain, but he's playing great, but it's really twangy sounding, And then that's the shorted coil era. What else we got here? Merry Christmas from Alberta, says Dave. What's up, homie? Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Up there in the super chat. Thank you guys for doing that. Too kind. Okay, moving down to the bottom of the chat. I'm actually going to just go through here because I think I missed somebody's super chat. I'm going to find it before it disappears. There we go. Desert Island album. It was Dustin. Desert Island album. He's saying, also, what's your pick and strings of choice? The first thing that came to mind was Dark Side of the Moon. I don't know why, but I guess maybe I had this great, I had a rough 2005, just going through some like personal stuff, and things that year. 2005, 2006 were kind of like upheaval years for me. And I remember anyway, 2005 being a rough year, but my best day of 2005, I remember being playing some gigs over in Spain, getting on a boat in Ibiza. And if anybody knows Ibiza, sailing from Ibiza over to Formentera, which is only a few hours by boat. And I remember having this great with my buddy Draco that I played with back then, and he and his manager and I went on this boat for a day, and we anchored off the shore of Formentera. This sounds very exotic, I know, but we sat out there and we ate food. The captain of the ship cooked us dinner, and we drank some wine and sat around and talked like dudes, you know. And then I remember sleeping, like looking at the stars, listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and probably smoking some hoo-ha. and listening to Dark Side of the Moon and being like, this is the greatest record I've ever heard. And it couldn't be like, there was all the boats kind of at dusk, like all floating around in the bay of Formentera, you know, and just like going, this is the greatest, this is the best day of the year for sure right now. This doesn't suck. So anyways, that maybe Dark Side of the Moon is my Desert Island album, because there I was, not at a desert island, but it's kind of a desert island, actually. It's really sandy. There's not a lot of vegetation. Formentera is really small. Tiny. These are the perks of the music business. Fun times like that, where you'll find yourself in these weird situations. Yep. That was a good day. Okay, sorry. I'll get out of reminiscing mode. Was Eddie's Destroyer ash or Carina? I think they were all ash. The Ibanez were all made out of that sand ash. That's Stephen Douglas. It looks kind of appropriately like, you know, Carina. It looks like Carina is really, I think it's just a kind of an African mahogany, really. It's a species of, you know, and it's kind of a light wood, and the ash is probably not. Ash is a little, it's got the different, you know, distinct grain to it, and Carina's got that kind of sort of fine flex in it, or whatever you want to call it. They look a little different, but Tyler says, what's up? Are you playing guitar? I don't generally play guitar on this show. Maybe you're asking everybody in the chat. I don't generally play that much guitar. Every now and then I pick one up if somebody asks me a specific question, but it's more about, this always ends up about being music and gear questions, doesn't it? For 148 weeks now. It's crazy. New comments. Let's see. What do we got down here at the bottom? Sen is some sort of ash, says George. Yeah, I believe it's just ash that happens to be the origin is Japan. Does the Destroyer have Gibson or Fender scale length? I'm going to assume it's Gibson. I haven't checked, and I don't know that 100%, but I'm assuming it's 24 3/4. White Limba, says Howlface. Maybe, yeah, Carina, or I don't know. I got to ask Sir. That's a good question. Let's text John and ask him exactly what Carina is, and see. He would know. Is Carina wood basically African mahogany? Question mark. Any thoughts on Warmoth necks, says Bluesman. I've only got one. I think they make probably really good stuff. I'm not really crazy about the neck I got, but that's just because it's a big V and it's kind of chunky, but it's not a bad neck at all. I'm actually going to gift it to Ben. Ben's going to get the neck from my guitar. Ben's here. Hi, Ben. As soon as I get something else for it, which I haven't done yet, but I will. He's my faithful moderator, and he's got his own channel, of course, and you should all check it out. Fran says, Pete, do you have a parts store you go to besides all of the Sir stuff? A parts store for guitar parts? I mean, I generally just do the same thing you guys probably would do, which is search Sweetwater or search all parts, or, you know, depending on what I need. Yeah. You know, and look around for whatever it is that I need. Limba. That's right. John says no. Limba. And the wood is Limba. Okay, so that's totally wrong. It's not. Where does Limba come from? Of course, that changed to Linda. Where does Limba come from? Okume is similar to African mahogany, but it is not that. Where does Limba come from? See if he has an answer. He's such an amazing source of knowledge on guitars. Opinions on 2020 Gibsons, considering a 70s Explorer. I don't know. I haven't actually played a ton of new Gibsons. I like the direction. I certainly like the direction they've been going the last couple of years over where they were going. I will say that, but it's probably down to each individual guitar once again. Gibsons for a long, long, long time have seemed to be like a little inconsistent, where you got to find the good ones, you know? So you got to find the good ones. Limba, the wood database he sent me to. West African. Okay, so it's not mahogany, but it is from Africa. I wasn't totally wrong. Common names: Limba, black Limba, white Limba, Carina. Oh, this is tropical Western Africa. That's where it comes from. And of course, it looks like, can you see that? It looks like that, sort of. Interesting. Let's tell him to come in the chat. Thank you. Helpful. Come on my Sunday chat if you've got a minute. Let's see if he drops in. Okay. What else we got here? The Cradle of Humanity, says Bluesman. That's right. What else? Do you use treble bleeds on any of your humbucker guitars? All my Sirs have a treble bleed circuit, which is the standard Sir thing that they do. You know, it's just cap and a resistor, and it works great. I tend to like treble bleed circuits, generally speaking. They just work really good. Jason Carter says, are you aware of fake Sirs going around? There's a video on Daryl Braun's guitar channel. I did see that video. That guitar looks so wrong to me that, you know, I would know instantly. The double dots at the 24th fret would be the first, you know, but also just the finish and the bridge is like, wait a minute, they don't use that bridge. So there's all kinds of things that are wrong with it, like within about 5 seconds that I saw. But these things happen, you know. They don't have it perfect. It's the thing, they're not willing to go to the length to get the right hardware and all that stuff generally, and they don't have the skills as far as finishing and stuff, so they don't look right, you know. And you just got to watch out. You got to know what you're getting, but always, you know, look beyond the name on the headstock and the general shape of the guitar, and look at the parts, and look at things like the fingerboard, and you'll instantly, you know, you'll know when it's fixed. Les Pauls or anything, you know. Yeah. What else we got here? How does your Shure PT100 compare to a BE100? You know, they're both different shades of a great take on a channel switcher amp, I would say. We're talking about modded Marshalls here, basically. Design wise, you know, perfected, tweaked, and it's a, you know, the closest amp to the PT100 is probably a SS100, the Stevens model, because Steve wanted a clean channel that was in his amps that are, you know, Steve uses PT100s actually. He's got his amps, and then sometimes it's like an SS100, a BE100, and then 2 PT100s in his rack, and he uses the PT100s for, you know, all kinds of stuff. Actually, he uses all 3 channels as far as I understand, but that is the closest thing to is his amp, because it has more of a Fendery clean channel in it, because that's what he requires really, is that when you think about the songs like Flesh for Fantasy and stuff, where he's got a chimey scooped mid kind of, you know, more true Fender clean. So that's the closest amp in the line. The other BE100s are probably just a little bit more Marshall on the. I don't know exactly what Dave's doing on the clean channel on those, but anyway, we're talking about very similar designs here in some ways, you know. Now my amp has, you know, there's some different things going on with it. Beck's loop, for instance, it's got a switchable line, and like I don't think the BE100 has that. I don't think it's a switchable line to instrument level loop. What else we got on my amp? Dave's probably got a depth pot on a BE100. I'm not 100% sure, but my amp has a switch, a 3-position switch. I don't think a BE100 has a feedback. Does it? Maybe some of them, the newer ones, I don't know, have a feedback, like for negative feedback. My amp has that. A couple of differences, you know. Dave's, of course, has a couple of things that we don't have, like the SAT switch and the Custom 45 switch, which gives you these little voicing options. So they're just a little different. Who would you recommend in LA for a recone, says Michael Mitchell. I don't know, man. That's a good question. Friedman might have a better answer on that. He might have somebody that he could recommend. Precone in LA. I mean, I would probably contact like Warehouse or somebody like that, to be honest, and just ship a speaker. I bet they do Recones, don't they? I don't know. That's probably who if I was looking for somebody in the States. Yeah. Brisley Adams says that French YouTuber says the Ibanez destroyers are made of tree wood. Yes, they come from trees. That's true. That's a pretty broad statement. What's your favorite speaker with the PT amp, says Mr. Thunder? You know, I like a lot of speakers with the PT amp. The cabinet that we ended up with on the, if you're talking about the PT 100, has 2 Creamback H75s because I feel like they're a great speaker across the board, from cleans to crunchy, you know, to really distorted. They're a terrific sounding speaker. They do it all. Kind of, it's just everything's there. My favorite dirty speaker is always a greenback, because I just like, or some variety of greenback, because I like the way the greenbacks, that sort of woody distortion. I don't know how else to describe it. They can also sound a little bit, you know, greenback clean can sound a little sort of, I don't like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a little ho-hum, you know, for cleans. So I'll use them, but it is I feel like always like they're slightly, they just sort of sit there. Whereas a speaker like let's say a Celestion Alnico Cream or something are amazing for clean sounds. You know, an Alnico speakers for cleans I really tend to like. So it just depends on what you want. But the H75 is a speaker that for cleans, it just got a little more sparkle and lively low end and stuff than a greenback design with its heavier magnet. So I find it's a really good sort of compromise, you know. But the thing with the PT100 is it's got a really great treble control on the distortion channel that allows you to go from about 5 on the treble to 6.5 or 7. There's a lot of range in there. And if you use V30s, you can get a great sound. If you use greenbacks, you can get a great sound. So, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Let's see here. What would be the best Marshall in a box for a flat solid state amp on the clean channel, a Randall? I mean, there's so many good options. I don't know about best. It just depends on what you want to do. You know, like if we take Dave's pedals, the small box is great for that. You heard it, like kind of 50 watt, you know, tones. That little Wampler Plexi drive is nice for JTM 45 meets 50 sort of tones. The Revival drive is, to me, sort of the mother of all Marshall-y JTM 45 50 pedals. It's got a really realistic, you know, sort of plexi thing to it. If you get the big one, it's got that control that I've talked about before that sort of simulates ghosting, like low filtering on an old Marshall, which is amazing. I've never heard another pedal do that. Some other good ones. What other good Marshall in a box? The Ramble FX. Is it 3 Marvel 3? Marvel 3, I think, is a really good one. Yeah, there's some. Bogner Blue is good for that plexi kind of drives. I've used it on my board for a long time. The Lagrange is nice too. The Sir Riot does a great JCM 800 kind of thing. So it depends on what you want. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we got? What else? Have you considered doing a signature carved top, sir? I have, actually. They get really pricey, you know, once you get into that. But if there was a demand and maybe like a limited thing, I would consider it. I just wonder, a signature carved top, like if I was going to do something special, would it be that, or would it be more like a relic, like my Red guitar? Because you could go either way. You could go to the signature carved top, fancy bound fingerboard, you know, guitar that retails for $5,900 or something. I don't know what, you know, or you could go to the other way and go for the Relic Red, sort of like my classic with the you know, with the tortoiseshell guard and that kind of thing, and which is more me, you know, probably that, you know, is more me. Although I like the carved top, you know, like do a carved top standard. Pretty cool, you know, pretty neat. But I don't know. I think that it's just, you got to question what is the most me, right? Because it'd be a signature thing. So let's see what else here. How much gain can you get from that top hat before anything unwanted happens, says Fran. The top hat, I got this amp around 2000, so I've had it for 20 years. And I'll tell you the story. I was looking for an old Marshall, and I was going to a bunch of shops. There used to be this great store in LA called Black Market Music, and they had a ton of, it almost looked like a pawn shop, but with like good stuff. Like, it wasn't a pawn shop, it was a music store, but they had like this ton of stuff everywhere, pedals and amps and cabinets and guitars all over the place. It just kind of had that pawn shop vibe. It was a unique store. A lot of modded stuff. So you'd see, like, you know, there'd be 12 old Marshalls in there, but a lot of them were hacked. And, you know, a bunch of guitars, they'd be like, you know, 60 Strats and stuff, but somebody hacked a humbucker into them, or like different stuff like that. Cool player stuff was what was in Black Market generally. And so I went in there and I was looking for an old Marshall, and I wanted a great, you know, late 60s, early 70s plexi 4-hole kind of thing. And I played a lot, and I couldn't get a sound out of any of them. A lot of them just seemed like they were tired or had mods, and like that. It's like, oh, this wasn't what I was expecting out of any of them. And I just couldn't find one I liked. I went into Guitar Center in Sherman Oaks, and they had that top hat. And I plugged into it, and it sounded like what I wanted. And it was not $800 or $900. It was used. And I knew Brian from Top Hat really well at the time, because I had one of his King Royale amps, and I was a big fan of Top Hat, actually. So I plugged that in and I played it, and the input jack was kind of intermittent on it, but it was just, you know, probably dirty or something. And it sounded great. And Plexador is basically a great straight up sort of plexi design, but there's a mod circuit in it that you can switch in and out. And there's also a switchable bright cap on the gain pot. So if you pull this out, you get the bright cap. If you push it in, there's no bright cap. And so you can get kind of a more, you know, usable across the volume range, a little less gainy, a little less aggressive. Pull it out and it gets aggressively bright. And around 6, right where I've got it marked from probably 2001 on the pod here, it sounds great with the, you know, just like you'd expect on a Marshall. It sounds ice picky until you get it up to about 6 or 7. Then it's like, oh, there it is. Sounds amazing, like AC/DC, you know. So it'll do all that, and then it's got this switch that is called Fat and Treble, and that's like supposedly JTM 45 or more like late 60s lead spec. So that's nice. And then this vintage and modern switch that switches in a gain circuit of some sort, which sounds really nice and rich, actually. I remember asking Dave once, Friedman, because he's worked on the amp and serviced it and stuff. I said, what is that gain? Like what? And he goes, it's not really like anything else. It's kind of, if anything, it's sort of like maybe closer to the Slash AFD sort of thing than anything else, sort of, but not even. So I said, okay, and that's all the info I got. And so in that mode, it's got a nice, rich, full mid-rangey gain. I mean, I should do a track with it or something to hear it. It's a great amp. It's a really, really good sounding amp. And it's an old generation one. The one thing with Brian is, I would say that he kept improving his designs. Like actually, the one that came after that sounded maybe even better. I don't know. Like, and then the King Royales, as they went on, it seemed like I don't know. That guy's he's a really great amp builder. And I lost track of him and touch with him kind of when he moved out to North Carolina and moved out there and started building out there. But I learned a lot from him when he lived in LA. He showed me some things and taught me some things about amps, and I really liked him. He's a really good guy, and I feel like his head and heart and, you know, mind and everything for building is in the right place. He's got a great, I don't know, he's just a good amp builder, you know, cool guy too. Really liked him. So anyways, kind of miss him. It's been a lot of years since I've seen him or even spoke with him, and I hope he's well in North Carolina. So it's a really good, I would highly recommend. They're a great if you want to get a good, find a used one or something and it's a good deal, pick them up because they're a really good sounding amp. The little ones, the Club Royale and the Club Deluxe, cool little combos. Especially when later on, like I say, he made changes and they kept getting better. He did a little bit more depth in the cabinet of the later Club Royales. They're basically a 15-watt Vox AC30 sort of design. And those amps sound amazing. Thomas Wolf is up there in the super chat, and he says, "Hi, Peter. How good is the new 5153 LBX Stealth 15-watt? Is it more than the red light and the green light effect when you change the channel?" Dude, I'm sorry, I haven't played that amp. The little lunchbox ones, right? I would like to try them and know what they sound like, just to have some perspective, but I haven't. The only 5150 amps that I really knew were the original, the 6L6, when they first came out, the 5153. They've gone through changes and different stuff over the years, and that was a long time ago. That's 12 years ago or something that I last had that amp. So I wish I had a little more perspective, but there's only so much time. I just missed what would be better as a studio tool, 12-string electric or baritone? God, this is kind of like even, I would say. I've got 12 strings and I've got a baritone. I play the baritone the most, but that's just because I love it. Like, I write stuff on the baritone, and totally, I love that thing. I could play in a band and just play baritone, be stoked, make that my thing, Terry says, "I love my PT100, but I'm looking to go with the PT15 for church. How similar in tone are they when going through reactive load IR?" Really similar. You basically got the different power section, but especially on it's a different clean channel that's more like the Bella in the 15. So it's a little bit, I would say, maybe fuller through the mids than a PT100, which has a little bit more classically scooped blackface Fender character. But they're not that different. You could, if you play one, you could play the other one on the clean channel. And then as far as channel 2 and 3 goes, in the 15, it's pretty much the same distortion channel. You've just got a different power section, so that'll change the sound a little bit. If anything, in some ways, I think the PT15 has almost like it's got this sweet, rich character on the distortion side. Maybe that's the low watt thing pushing into the power section a bit more, so it's easier to get it in the zone than the 100. Maybe 100's amazing, man. I love it, but we found that with the 15, where it was just like, sounds really sweet on the like, if you directly A/B them, which we did, it's like, wow, like, it's when I think we kind of signed off on the design. It was really, it's like, we be dealing with it and tuning it in, stuff, checking it out and stuff, and listening. Maybe we should listen to 100 just for comparison. We'd listen to the 100 and go, I think maybe the 15 in some ways sounds better. I remember that with John. John's like, yeah, I gotta look at the, and so that's when we knew we had a really great, because we know the 100 sounds great. So when we compared it and went like, yeah, it's all the way there, and in some ways it's almost this sweetness to it that's really fun. But like I say, that could just be pushing those 6v6s a little harder than you're able to at a reasonable volume level push the 100-watt power section and all that. So I think you'd be very happy. I think it's I've heard nothing but good things about the 15 when people get them for their gigs. They're like, I'm playing more, I'm using this thing all the time, it just makes my job easier. A lot of comments like that, and I haven't seen anybody say, yeah, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I've never seen anybody say that. So how does the Destroyer sit on your lap was a question. Pretty good. I always find that the only thing with them, I found this with my Explorer, and I can remember playing my Explorer with Chris Cornell back in the day and playing it live and feeling like the only adjustment was sometimes on the low string, the body right here, because there's not much of it. It would be a little weird on the low string, like palm muting, because I feel like my arm was like, it's a little, like, I was used to Les Paul at that point that I was playing a lot, and kind of that having a little bit more of that angled dish top right there in the edge. It goes up a little further than, and so that's a little bit strange. But other than that, I mean, they're very comfortable guitar to sit, and I guess it's slightly neck heavy, right? A little bit, but it's a great guitar. Really a lot of fun. Maybe I'll play it later today. Yeah, I got to do a demo for a pedal today, and I will play that guitar on it. It'll be fun. What speakers do I use? Celestion from UK or the Chinese or EVM solo guitar? I'm a Celestion guy. I would just get, for me, it's this regular greenbacks, the standard ones. And then I guess the speakers I use from Celestion are V30, a regular greenback, and a H75 creamback. Between those ones, that's my main, maybe some blues every now and then, or I really like the Alnico Cream. That's a really nice speaker too. Is it wrong to be hooked on wanting stereo effects loop amps and all else when playing and recording, says Fran. Fran, if it sounds good to you, go boldly. Use a stereo effects loop. The only problem with the stereo effects loop is, of course, you need a power section with 2 output transformers, and it's kind of it's easier to just use 2 amps, because it's like it would be so heavy making a stereo tube amp. There's a few of them out there, but it's kind of crazy. But DJMade.com says, oddly enough, Les Pauls are really uncomfortable for that reason. For me, Explorers are comfy. Yeah, it's whatever you get used to, whatever becomes your, it's like getting a new car or something. You sit in it and then you're like, oh, I got to move the seat and I kind of can't see and it's different. And then you get used to it. And then you go back to the old car and you're like, oh, this is weird now. Cheers, Pete. Says Bluesman, please do more Amps in the Zone episodes. I would love to. Possibly with smaller amps. Also, have you heard the Steve Stevens album Memory Crash? My favorite guitar sound ever. Memory Crash was my inspiration to make Guitar Nerd and finally finish it. I'd done some recording, but then when Steve put out Memory Crash, I was like, it really was inspirational for me, because it was a guitar album there's a couple vocal tunes on there, but it's mainly an instrumental guitar album. And it's so cool. And it just, I don't know how else to describe it. There's not too much shredding all the time. There's amazing guitar playing, but there's a lot of just stretched out. I want to listen to it again. Now that you're making me think, I need to go back and listen to it. Actually, I listened to it a lot for a while, and just the kind of I know he's a big Jeff Beck fan, and Steve's got an amazing sense of the system. Musicality is oozing out of that guy, and the way he would stretch tunes out and not feel like he needed to burn all the time, just there's space on that record. And that really inspired me to it's like, oh, I can make a guitar record like this. It doesn't have to be just all the time. It was great tones and the space and being stretched, the tunes stretching out and having some, like telling a story with the songs. So I love that record. I really do. One of my favorites. Do you use the same speaker in IR format, says Jeff? Generally, I do, yeah. I'll gravitate towards the exact same things that I would do in to be honest, when I'm using IRs, sometimes I compare to my real cab in the other room. I'll have, mics on the cab, and then I'll go, let's just listen. If I'm listening to an IR and I'm playing it, I'll be like, let's listen to the cab and make sure I'm close to the real thing. And so, I like to do that. So, and generally speaking, my standard IR go-to sort of, my default is a greenback with a couple mics on it, in a 412. Have you played Splon, says Mr. Thunder? Not really ever. I've heard one a couple times, but he says, I have a couple, currently have a Splon modified Plexi. Where does that fit in regards to the Friedman sound? Or is it its own thing? I don't really have a great perspective on that, to be honest. Splons, I've never really owned one, so I don't want to say, because it would be me making a comment when I don't really know, I heard one once. It sounded gainy and kind of with mids, to me. That's what I remember, but that's not, I didn't even play through it. I was just hearing somebody else play through it. Victor says EMGs, they get a bad rep, but between Gilmour, Mark Knopfler, Lukather, you have some great tones that used them. I agree. And I kind of have a hankering for having a guitar with EMGs in it. If anything, because I get a lot of RF kind of noise in this room coming through the pickups, and I'd love to have a really quiet guitar for certain things. Just when I'm feeling like I'm going crazy with noise, to just play a guitar that had, the standard sort of maybe like humbucker in the bridge, and then maybe 2 guitars, like a 3 single coil Gilmour 80s situation, and then a humbucker and 2 singles. That's probably what I would like. just to have around, you know, for a different thing. And I'll probably do that at some point. I've gotten close a couple times to actually, I was in touch with a guy from EMG and I was like, I just want to try a set of these and, you know, just have a studio guitar that's really quiet, that kind of, just mix it up, you know, a little bit. Do you like the Telecaster Deluxe, says Space Blues? I kind of do. Yeah, I like those designs. The Sir Alt T is similar, and I have one of those, and I really like that guitar. I think they're great rhythm guitars, you know, really cool kind of rhythm guitars. Thomas Wolf says, last week you told me the FM3 is good enough for professional recording. Do you have the same opinion about the Helix? Sure. I mean, I'll use anything. I mean, if I can get a good tone and if it makes me get work done, it's the most important thing. You can make records with any of these things, you know? And dude, I'm all about like getting work done, you know, honestly. If I've got my optimum thing, that's one thing. And I like to have the stuff, you know, like real amps and all that, and a cab in the other room mic'd. And for me, now that I have that stuff, the fastest way for me to get work done is actually amp into cab, turn on the mics, let's go. I have that set up so that it's so fast. That's my fastest thing. It's faster than using modelers to me. Because just the way I've configured my studio, kind of like Tim Pierce, he's the same way. He was really my inspiration for getting that together finally. And, you know, if you've got that set up, it's quick and it's instantly gratifying. But an FM3 or a Helix, you know, given the time to set it up and just make some presets and have everything in order, if that's how you get your work done, then it's great. I always say, you know, I went to one of the biggest gigs I ever played was probably like, I went to the Philippines with Mandy Moore in 2003. And I did 2 shows, one for 15,000 people, one for 50. And it was one of the bigger gigs that I've played. You know, 50,000 people is a lot of people. And I was using a Pod Bean. Who cares? It was a pop gig. And I could fit it in my suitcase. I knew it was going to be consistent going to, you know, a hot, humid country like the Philippines and renting an amp and not knowing what I was going to get and stuff. I was like, you know, forget it. I'm just going to use this thing. And I took it and used it to great effect. I made the same money I would have had I, you know, used a 100-watt tube amp or something. And everybody went home happy. Got my job done. I'm all about getting work done. Was it the most amazing tonal experience ever? Probably not, but, you know, it was fine and nobody said anything. It depends on what you're doing, you know? It depends on what you're doing. I mean, the guitar tone on, isn't it American Woman by Lenny Kravitz? Isn't that the one he did with the Pod? I think so. Which maybe is not the greatest sounding record he ever did, you know, but it was a huge hit. One of his biggest hits was covering that song. And I think that's the one he used a Pod on. You know, can you make records with, well, there's a big hit record that, you know, there's probably so many parts that you hear on hits that are modelers or, you know, thoughts on PRS. Never seen you play one or heard you mention them, says Brandon. I had a couple. I had a McCarty that was a nice guitar that I really enjoyed playing for a while. I'm a really big Dave Grissom fan. And, you know, I love his guitar playing, and he's always used one to great effect. Albeit they're the more Les Paul style ones that have a true Les Paul scale. My other one was a custom 24. So that's a alder body with a nice maple top on it and a maple neck and a rosewood board, and had that. It was more the traditional PRS thing, but with the bolt when they started doing bolt-ons. Nice guitar, maybe a little like no personality, but pretty nice guitar. I preferred the McCarty because it was a little bit more like a good Les Paul. So anyways, yeah, I don't know. You know what I would like is one of the Mayer ones. I like that guitar. I played it and I loved the sound of the pickups. Thought the in between, I thought it was just fun. There's a video of me playing it actually from GitCon a couple of years ago, where me and another fellow, we trade guitars back and forth. He's got my signature guitar and I've got the Mayer guitar. And it was kind of like a first impressions sort of thing. Oh, what do you think of this? Here's my guitar, and I'll take this guitar, and because he was there with PRS, and I was like, this thing's fun. I was like, the in between positions sound like really fun, like a lot of quack on the single coils, and I was enjoying playing it, you know. So, and I like John John is he's such a fun guitar nerd. He's my Instagram messenger buddy. We talk about guitar stuff on Instagram Messenger all the time. So I've only met him a few times. He's a nice guy. I had fun hanging out with him one night in New York. He took me to Nobu for sushi. I always appreciated that. But I haven't seen him, in 10 years or something like that in person, but we talk on IG and geek out on guitar stuff. He's cool. And I like his guitar. My neighbors are listening to Guitar Nerd, whether they like it or not, says Bluesman. I appreciate that. Crank it up. Crank it. Have you ever played a Guild Polera S100 from the 70s? Isn't that the Kim Thale guitar? I haven't. They look like an SG, right? Never played one. Are rail humbucker size, single coil size pickups still noiseless when split? I don't think so. It's probably like a true single coil at that point. And it's sort of true single coil with a rail. Is the magnet underneath on a rail size? I think so, right? Probably more like humbucker style because the rail is not the magnet, right? That's a Aquila. Yeah, I think they are probably just split, with noise and all that. Do you have an opinion on the Yamaha Revstar guitars? I think they're good. I think Yamaha makes really good guitars, actually. Or if you're talking about the Revstars that are kind of the double cutaway humbucker, excuse me. They make one with P90s. A good, solid working guitar, I think. Honestly. Produce Like a Pro is here. What's up, Warren? How are you? Yeah, I think that they're really good working, solid instruments, and I've played them a bit. My friend Matt, who does artist relations for Line 6, Yamaha is now the parent company that owns Line 6, and he had me play a bunch of them just to check them out and kind of offer an opinion. I thought they were really quite nice. I did. Solid. They do nice frets. Okay. Aside from portability, what, if any, differences would you say exist between a PT15 and a PIR and a PT15 using a reactive load? None. Exactly the same. Kevin nailed the reactive load that's in the PT15 IR. It's just a miniaturized version of the exact same thing, and it's going to sound basically identical. So it's the same chip and everything in there for the IRs, and everything's the same. So there'll be no difference in tone. Many times, to be honest, because I have on my amp switcher, I've got my PT15, and I've got the line out on the PT15 over to a patch bay over here, to my patch bay. But then I've got the speaker out on the PT15 feeding my amp switcher, right? And one of the outputs of the amp switcher goes to a reactive load that's up here, right beside that aux that you can see. And I'll often just use the reactive load because it's like I'm on the switcher and it's like I've got the record channel set for, you know what I'm saying? Like it would be one more step to go in my DAW and move the record channel to the one that's the line out on the PT15. So I'll just use the reactive load because it's right there and it's plugged in. And I do it without even thinking about it. It sounds exactly the same. Who is this guy like spamming right now? Ben, where are you? There's some sort of strange Richard person, some spam chat. I can take care of him. Put user in timeout. I handled it. Let's see here. Tom says, hey Pete, get the EMG SL20 Steve Lukather HSS pre-wired loaded pickguard and pop it into a Strat style, and you have sitting around rarely used. You'll love quiet. That's a good advice. If it's good enough for Steve for a studio guitar, it'll be good enough for me. Way good enough for me, because Steve Lukather is the greatest. Being Canadian from Canada, are you familiar with Darren Smith and Pete Lesperamps from Harem Scarum? I met, I hope I didn't say his last name wrong. I met him and had a drink with him one night, actually, in Toronto. Yeah, it was like 2 years ago, I think. And it was really fun, actually. Me and the original guitar player from Our Lady Peace, who I'm friends with, he called me up and said, do you want to have a drink with me and Pete? And I said, I'd never met Pete. And I said, absolutely. So we went and hung out, and it was really cool to meet him, actually. Darren, I don't know though, just Pete. So can't say I know him well, but we did hang out in Toronto one night and had a nice time talking guitars and stuff. Matthew Kennedy is up there in the super chat and he says, "Hey Pete, I'm a guitarist turned utility player. Acoustic keys. That's great skill to have, man. There's more work for you folks. What are some things to avoid and some things to get stoked about from a utility musician on stage? Or some things to avoid and some things you get stoked about?" I don't know. I mean, it's the same stuff for any musician in a band, really. I would just say the most important thing is be a team player and be fun and read the room and know how to read the room and all that stuff. It's a great skill. If you've got that skill, I think, like I say, there's just a world of work out there for you, that isn't open to, there's a lot of guys I know that were maybe primarily guitar players and then they'd get a gig. I think of a guy like good example would be I'm forgetting the dude's name. Damn it, I'm so bad with names this morning. I feel bad, but anyway, a fella plays with Sheryl Crow and he plays steel in her band. I think his name was Josh. He learned steel, which is like there's not that many steel players. If you even in LA, there's like there's it seems like there's just not that many dudes that do it, and probably more in Nashville, I guess. And he's more based in Nashville now. I think that's where he, because that's where Cheryl's based. But anyway, he ended up being a long-term, member of her band, touring band, and studio and stuff. I think because he went out and he had the gumption to learn how to play steel, and he can also play guitar. So that's pretty cool. Keys. If you can play keys and guitar, my buddy Paul Trudeau plays keys with Billy Idol, but he even plays guitar on a few songs, plays some rhythm guitar. It's a great skill to have. Who else is a great example of a utility? I can't think right now, but if you're somebody like Andy Wood, I mean, he burns on acoustic as well as on mandolin. So I think he kind of had that role actually with when he was playing. What was Andy's gig? God, I can't think of anything today. I can think of guitar stuff, but I can't think of names. What's the band that Andy toured with? Huge country band. Somebody's going to say it. Somebody will say it in the chat there. But anyway, he got in that, because he could shred on guitar, but he could also play mandolin and stuff, I think. It's good skill. Utility stuff. Alan Long says, "Pete is amazing. Love his channel." Dude, you're amazing. Thank you for being here. You guys are amazing for hanging with me every week. We got 622 people online, which is just amazing. I love you all. Rascal Flatts, that's the band. So yeah, Andy toured with Rascal Flatts, and I think he got the gig. He's an amazing guitar player, but they already had a guitar player. I think they needed somebody that could do the stuff that they hired him for, which was that utility chair. I feel like utility player, it almost is like a derogatory. Oh, he's the guy, he's the utility player. Like, you can strum some chords on guitar. It's like not always like that. You think about somebody like Andy's stellar at playing, any kind of acoustic, electric, whatever, but then he just happens to be burning on mandolin too. It's a really amazing skill, to have all that ability. An observation I came to with guitar. This is Selen up there in the top chat. He says, on light and heavy wood within same model, got a few SGs. Heavy, dark sounding guitar, 8 or 9 strings. Light wood, 10 strings. Yeah, dude, I would say that's a great, on guitars with lighter wood, say really light swamp ash or something. I would say, they tend to scoop out in the, you don't get the lows, the solid lows, and then they scoop out in the low mids for sure. And so thicker strings are going to give you just more energy, But on heavier guitars, I think it's true. You might need, depending on what they're made out of, maybe not across the board, but I think that's good overall. Oops, I missed a top chat, I think. I'm going to super chat. I'm going to find it. One just vanished and I may have missed. Oh, no, that was it. Matthew's question about utility players. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got here? Got a hold of a vintage Kasha Quick Mod from my SLP the other week. Interesting piece of kit. Ever messed with one? Is that a thing that goes in one of the tube sockets? Because I remember those where they did add a tube gain stage. I never did mess with one, but I've always found them interesting. George Lynch just had a thing similar that he had a limited number of them that he was selling, that he designed with some company, and it was like a, stick it in your JCM 800 and then it adds a tube gain stage. Kind of interesting. I think that's what a quick mod was, though. Am I correct? For Marshalls, and they actually stick it in the tube slot, and it kind of does a built-in mod. How much different is the Sir Badger 18 version 2 compared to my Friedman DS40, says Josh? Pretty different. I mean, a Friedman Dirty Shirley is a Marshally Class A/B power section with a tube rectifier that's essentially like a JTM 45 power amp and a JCM 800 style front end. So it's a little lower gain than some of the other Friedman preamp designs, I guess, probably a little more like classic Marshally sounding front end. Sir Badger 18 is a cathode bias like a closer amp to your Dirty Shirley would be the PT15, really, I would think, than a Badger 18. A Badger 18 is, like I always say, like we talked about at the beginning, it's more of a edge of breakup Americana rootsy thing. It's not really a Marshall, I don't think. I don't think they really sound like that. It's not the amp I'd choose for AC/DC. It's the amp I'd choose for soulful Americana. Edge of breakup. Is it clean? Is it dirty? It's right in the middle zone. So whereas a PT15 will give you a true, it's got great master volume on it, and it'll give you more of that Class A/B big power tube, but in a small amp sort of sound, and not that compressed. It's not as compressed sounding. A Badger 18 has this like kind of compressed, like I say, edge of breakup thing. It's a different sound, but it's not as chimey as an AC30. It's different. Double Life, a tribute to the Cars, is up there in the super chat. And he says, my girlfriend says you look cute today. Wow, thanks. I appreciate that, because I didn't wash my hair and I didn't shave. So I was a little late getting up. I've been having these late nights lately. Like last night, I was recording something to send over to the UK for the Classic Rock Show, my friends over there. And I was working on it. I got kind of lost in work. And then I looked at the clock and it was 10 p.m. And it's like, oh, damn. Because usually I go home by then. And I was like, okay, it's Saturday night, 10 p.m. I guess that's enough work for a Saturday. So by the time I got home and I ate something and all that, I ended up staying up really late. What was my point? Oh, I didn't shave. Yeah, because I woke up late to get here for, end up working late, eating late, everything. I'm just in that mode. Utility player Chris Quinn is up there in the top chat. He says, utility player, great topic. John Paul Jones. Yeah, I mean, I think of him primarily as a bass player that just happens to be amazing and a bunch of other stuff. It's like we should think of him as more than just a bass player, shouldn't we? Because he's incredible. No quarter. I mean, God, so cool. My point is, keys and stuff. Unbelievable. Paul Raymond, UFO, Dave Gregory in XTC, even Michael Anthony with backup vocals. I mean, he's more just a bass player with backup vocals, but I think when I think of utility players in big bands, it's a good example of that. Utility players in great big bands. I don't know. What's some good examples? Who's the best utility player? It's a great, like, let's talk about the unsung heroes, the utility players that were stellar at a ton of different stuff from big bands. If we're going to go there, if we're going to pick like the primary members, then Geddy Lee, right? He even played some guitar on, didn't he play guitar on that one tune where he had the double neck? And that dude, come on. Amazing. Eddie Van Halen. He played keys. Nobody ever refers to him as a utility player. I guess I cracked myself up. Chuck Rios is up there in the top chat, and he says, have you ever heard of the Princeton Fizz? That sounds like a good name for a wedding band. The Princeton Fizz. Or a drink. I'll have a Princeton Fizz, please. I got a PR68 reissue now. It makes this weird fizz decay when I hold certain notes. That doesn't sound right. Tried different guitars, tubes, same thing, clean, no pedals. Might be a good thing to have a tech look at and see if a good tech, like I bet somebody like Friedman could diagnose where the fizz comes from. Maybe it's got a Celestion speaker in it, so maybe you don't like the tone of the speaker. I don't know. Different for a Princeton. I've got my 68 and I don't hear that. I mean, it's a very, for a Princeton, it's a warm sounding Princeton because there's no bright circuit in it, right? In the 68, it's its own thing, but I really like it. It's a great little amp. It's just got a very sort of mid-range centric sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably get a tech to look at it, take it there and show the tech. This is the thing that I don't like. And it'd have to be a good tech with great ears, not just somebody that fixes amps that can kind of do it. You know, it's like more somebody that is down with like, oh, it's the whatever cap on, you know, we need to switch out this, you know, for a different, sometimes fizz, you know, there's like certain caps, like, what do they call those? Silver micas, you know, or certain things that they can sound a little like, you know, fizzy or something. So I don't know if there's any silver mica caps in a Princeton reissue. Probably not, but you know what I mean. Tony McAlpine playing keys for Vi. I mean, seriously, says Patrick Cooper, as the utility guy. You know, I played in a band with Tony McAlpine and I experienced that firsthand. So probably not a lot of people know that. But I did the 2016 Michel Polnareff tour in France with Tony McAlpine. So I was really the second guitar player. But Tony was the primary lead guitarist in that band, and rightly so, you know. But I did get to do a guitar duel with him. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It was Michelle's idea. You know, I want you to do a guitar solo together, you know, play like, and I was like, oh my God, I got a guitar duel with Tony McAlpine. And we had a lot of fun doing it, actually. I ended up having a great time on that. But Tony on piano is like, oh my God, man. Absolutely unbelievable. I wish I could find the video. I put it on my Instagram a number of years ago in 2016, but there's a video of the last night we all hung out in France. We kind of ended up having a sort of impromptu like hotel party in the lobby because there was a piano in the lobby of this hotel that we were staying in. And Tony started playing, and so did Brad Cole, was the MD and also primary keyboard player in that band. And they were sitting at the piano and trading off, you know, trading 16 bars, soloing, and going back and forth over this kind of jazz progression. And it was unbelievable. And Tony, he's like, oh, I don't even know how to play jazz. I'm terrible at this. And he's like, the dude is like, you know, he's like a savant kind of. It's amazing. His piano playing in that band. I remember because Michelle played piano. There was 4 keyboard players in that band. Actually, we've got Michelle, who's primary instrument is piano, and then Tony, and then the 2 keyboard players in the band as well, primary keyboard players. And I remember one time hearing this incredible classical piano at soundcheck and looking around, realizing there was no other piano players on stage. I'm like, where's that coming from? And then I looked over and it was Tony sitting at Michelle's piano, just playing, you know, like Rachmaninoff or something. It was like unbelievable. It's like, God, this guy's a real musician. Anyways, somebody's up there in the top chat. Bluesman says, talking about utility, do you think it's better to own one style of guitar playing, get killer at it, or be able to do a little bit of everything? There's no right or wrong answer to that. It depends on what you want, you know, because to me, so you have to ask yourself what your mission is with the guitar and with music in general. Because for some people, the guitar is just a vehicle for the songs. You know, for a lot of people, like I would say, let's take some different extremes. Glenn Frey, who is primarily a songwriter, I would say, you know, and singer, songwriter, that played guitar, I think is his main instrument. But we don't think about Glenn Frey as being this like exceptional guitar player. But he was a good guitar player, a solid guitar player. And I don't think he probably, I don't know Glenn Frey. I know people that know him, but I don't know him. I didn't know him. And my take on it was always that he was a guy that loved writing songs probably and would use the guitar as his vehicle to get them out. Probably didn't care that much about pickups and stuff that we care about, right? The extreme other end of it, but similar to me, would be Alan Holdsworth. The first time Glenn Frey's ever been compared to Alan Holdsworth, but also a guy that used the guitar as his vehicle, but didn't really, probably, from everything that I ever read about him, was primarily influenced maybe by horn players and stuff, and was always trying to get the guitar to sound more horn-like, with, less deviation, like less of pick attack on the notes. He wanted the notes to come out equal, kind of like you could on a horn. And so legato technique and stuff that he did, and whatever he did with his picking was all kind of geared towards, like, in other words, I don't think he cared as much about the guitar as he did about the music. And then there's folks that they really love the guitar and the geeky, and I guess I might fall into this category, although I'm a bit of a, it's a bit of a, it's a conundrum, because I primarily love music, but I do geek out on the guitar gear and the style. So where does this go with style? Well, it's like jack of all trades kind of players that want to learn a little bit of everything. To me, it's a little bit more about the music and just a love of music, and less geeky about the guitar, like more like wanting to just master different styles of, and then like guitar geeks that go all in on, like, a certain style. It's a little more like about that. I don't know. I got off on a tangent there. I don't know if it makes sense, but I hope it sort of, you do have to ask yourself what kind of player and musician you are and what seems to be most important to you. Like, okay, I can distill this down a little better. When I went to MI, I thought I was going to come out the other end and be able to play jazz. I just did. I thought, I'm going to have some handle on this and I'm going to be a halfway decent jazz player when I come out of MI. That wasn't true. And it was because I discovered that although I appreciate some jazz and I appreciate those players and stuff, that my true love was still Angus Young or the Beatles, really, or Eddie Van Halen, or it was rock guitar, And I discovered that I better just sort of focus on that, because I don't have to be a jack of all trades. That's a big enough umbrella that I can just go down that road, So I hope that makes sense. There might be other players that are like, yeah, I really have a love of like a wide, I just don't have that love of that other kind of, other kinds of music. I'm the same way with country. I appreciate it and I love hearing it sometimes, but I don't have this love of it where it's like, I need to know how to do that. It's, you think you go to music school and you're going to like, come out the other end and have this like wide, be able to play everything. The only way you're going to be able to play everything and sound convincing, do it, is if you really love it. So that's it. Yeah. What else we got here? What else? T. Neville says, I think the goal of playing any instrument is to be able to play whatever you hear or whatever you like in general. Sure. Talking about gear is fun, but give me a decent guitar and amp. And Hoogaff, says Shiny Beast. What's Hoogaff? Clapton was a player first and morphed into a songwriter in the 70s, says Santa Cruz. Eddie Van Halen would probably say his best songwriting was in the 60s. Anybody watch that Jason Becker video? It's so beautiful. I posted it on my Twitter yesterday, as well as, you'd probably seen it go around, but Jason posted a video of Eddie visiting him in 96. A couple different visits, actually, I think, that Eddie had with him. And it's a wonderful video, maybe the coolest video I've ever seen of how the guard down Eddie Van Halen is like in person. That's what he was like, it's a beautiful video, and you really get, he's a really, he's all heart, like in that video, and he's playing, he's got kind of it's just a great video. If you want to just check it out, it's on Jason's social media, in general. I think he probably posted it everywhere, but it's just a beautiful video. But he talks a little bit about Clapton there. He's talking about what he liked. He's like, yeah, I was really into Cream and stuff, but then like a little bit of Blind Faith and Derek and the Dominoes, and then I get into the 70s, and I didn't really pay attention after that. I wasn't into it, So he was a huge Cream, like the cranked up stuff with the and probably the Beano album. So he liked the Marshall loud, Yeah. Alan said he just listened to horn players most of the time, says Bent Tom. Yeah, I think he was really into horn stuff. That's Alan Holdsworth. That was his primary influence and what he was going towards, trying to deliver that, but on the guitar. What are some of your new favorite pedals lately, says Josh? That's a great question. New favorites. I've talked about this one quite a bit, but this is a terrific pedal that happens to be just sitting on my desk. The little Timmy from MXR. That's a great pedal for that middle gain, rootsy stuff. It's the Badger 18 in a pedal. If you want to get that kind of edge of breakup thing, or you want to play solo single note and you don't want it to sound distorted, but you want some of the effect of having some distortion, but you don't want furry or hairy or buzzy. This is great. What else we got here? What else we got? I did a video for this guy this week. This is really fun. I like wobbly chorus though. So some people are like, yeah, I just don't like that lo-fi thing. This thing, great, man, for if you like that lo-fi thing. But it'll also do kind of 80s sort of sounds. And with the delay time on it, you can see the demo. I put it up yesterday. With the delay time control on it, it'll get almost into slap territory, like a really long delay time for a chorus. What else? I don't know. Those are the two that come to mind right now. That Plexi Ranger pedal from Carl Martin. I can see it over there. I did a video of it a few weeks ago. It's a Range Master with the Plexitone style drive in it. That's a great pedal for, if you're doing any kind of gainy 70s meets. I know the chair is awful. I know. Don't talk to me about the creaking. I know. I'm going to get another one. Although they're expensive, though. It's an investment getting a chair. I mean, I know it's a good investment. Could this be any more washed out? God. It's a good investment for my back, and I'm going to get one. Tim Pierce recommended one. Somebody was recommending me. I asked Tim Pierce about what's a good studio chair, and I did, but they're like $1,000. Like I think used, they're $1,000. The one that Tim's got. Whoa, it's a lot of money. I would spend $500 on a chair because I think your back is worth it, but I don't know about $1,000. How did I get it? We were talking about pedals, and I got on office chairs. How often do you take a melody in your head and turn it into a song or demo as opposed to sitting down with the guitar from the beginning? This is Feline Empire. Generally speaking, I sit down with the guitar at the beginning and find the melody. If I'm making a video, if you're talking about the demos or even songs, I generally sit down and I get a sound or something going, and then I'll play something, and it inspires the rest of the thing. The melody I might play a note or a chord or something, and then the melody goes in my head, and then I try and find the notes on the guitar, though. Kind of comes out like that. How often do I write independent of like not having a guitar in my hands? I mean, driving down the road and come up with something, if that's what you mean. This is my driving down the road. I do that sometimes, and I'll record the idea on my phone, but it's a little more riff based. Like I'll hear a riff in my head and I'll sing the riff into the phone or the drum beat or something. I don't know why. If I don't have the guitar, it's a little more like I come up with riffs. Now, if I've got chords that I'm playing and then I need a melody, sometimes I'll play those, put the guitar down and sing the melody and then pick the guitar up. Because if I start just playing on the guitar, the guitar based boxes will influence what I'm doing. Does that make sense? But if I you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want that influence. I want my internal voice to inform what the melody should be. So sometimes not playing, hearing it, and then even just a note or two. Oh yeah, that's where it should go. And then I'll find those notes on the guitar, and then the rest sort of will come through the guitar. But the initial thing, I'll try and listen to my inner thing, Spray the chair with WD-40, says my knees hurt. Yeah, but this chair sucks, dude. It's like I need a better lower back. Like I'm getting to that age where it's like Arch says Herman Miller. That's right. That's the chair Tim recommended. But I think they're like over $1,000, aren't they? They're really expensive. Herman Miller chairs. $9.99 chairs. Someone gave it to me, but it's an amazing chair. Sounds good to me, man, but I don't know, $1,000. I mean, I guess my back's worth it, but that's a lot of money for a chair. I gotta get studio monitors. I know I won't be able to even listen to studio monitors if my back's fried and I gotta lie down, but let's see here. What else? Any news on a possible classic rock show tour in the UK next year? That's Steven. I don't have any news, but it's going to happen. But I just don't know when exactly. But those guys will be back out doing that again sooner rather than later. I mean, as soon as it's safely possible. I mean, I need to be able to get a vaccine and all that stuff and travel, so that I can go to, that there's stuff to worry about ahead of time before we could even go over there. And, I don't want to go anywhere in quarantine for 14 days in a hotel or something before I can even, you know what I'm saying? There's stuff that we got to do first, and then I'll be on that plane. Santa Cruz 3600 says, have you ever recorded with any big name producers? Sure. I used to work for Linda Perry a lot. That was like the biggest, a couple of years I spent kind of as her guitar player. Folks like James Blunt and Alicia Keys and Pink and all kinds of people that I got to do sessions for back then. Other producers, I worked with Ken Scott once. He worked with the Beatles, David Bowie. What other producers? I don't know, lots of them. Some other folks. I'm so bad with names today. Who's the guy that Desmond Child did some stuff for him? Kiss. I was made for loving you, baby. Desmond, he did a lot of stuff. You want to hear my Desmond Child story? I remember working on a Leanne Rimes session and trying to figure out what to do for a bridge in this song. And we're all kind of stumped. It was Kenny Aronoff on drums and Lee Sklar on bass and little me on guitar. And I remember trying to figure out with Desmond, okay, how do we get into this bridge? What's going to happen? And he suggests something, and we did it. We're like, oh God, yeah, that works. Okay, that's perfect. And then he's like, let's break for lunch. And so we broke for lunch. And I remember being I think it was at Henson, and walking into the lunchroom or whatever. And as we're walking up the stairs to go to wherever we were going to eat, I remember looking back at him going, man, that was a really good idea. For that, however, to get in that bridge. And his response was, I have done this before, It's one of those things that stuck with me through my whole career, which I use all the time. I have done this before, It was a great response. He was half kidding and half pompously serious, and I loved it. I'll never forget that. Some other good ones. Let's not state the obvious. That's another good one. That's even more of a kind of a hardcore dick thing to say, when it's boy, that was a good idea you had. Yeah, let's not state the obvious. That's a terrible one. I would never say that and mean it, but it's funny in jest. Loot89 says, my problem with chairs is that they simply don't last. This crappy chair that I've got right here, I've had for a lot of time, I must say. Thanks for doing the super chat, Loot89. I do appreciate that. I've had this chair for, I don't know when I got it, to be honest. I can't remember if I had it 10 years ago or if this is something that I bought when I moved to this building, but I got it at an Office Depot or something for $49, and I think I deserve a better chair. One of those things. Yeah. What else have we got here? Anyone know what that chair that Tim recommended was? It was a Herman something or other. Herman, somebody say it again. Herman, can't remember, but I believe that's the chair he got. What's your favorite EVH solo? I'm going to put some of these as I say them up on the screen. I should always do that. I don't know why I don't. My favorite EVH solo. Too hard to pick. The entirety of I'm the One, I guess, as a song was one big solo to me. No, there's so many great ones that I tend to like a lot of the kind of the more album track, the solo from You're No Good, which I played a little while ago on my IG. I learned it. I'd never learned it. It's so cool. And Ted Templeman described it as spiders when he does that. This is the thing down the neck with the harmonics, And Ted Templeman was talking about when he was playing that solo and how he made some suggestion or something. I was like, all right. And then he went in and played it, and he was like, he just played the solo. It was like so perfect. The tapping and the loosey-goosey tapping and bending in the middle. It's just amazing, that solo. So if you haven't heard it for a while, go listen to the solo for You're No Good, because it's so cool. But I tend to like ones like that are a little more like the I don't know. Think about the end of Drop Dead Legs with all that stuff that he plays on the end. You know, it's so cool, man. I don't know. I love Eddie Van Halen so much. God, man, his guitar playing, to me, it was just the coolest. I was thinking about, you know, I don't know, like stupid stuff. Like, remember when the David Crosby thing, and he got a lot of heat about that, and he apologized, but he just didn't know, you know, like play little guitars for David Crosby, the whole beginning of it, and make him sit down and listen to it. Because anybody that thought that Van Halen was just dumb party rock, listen to little guitars as a composition, the entire thing. It's friggin' unbelievable, you know, like the movement is just incredible. And it's like nobody was doing that in rock. Oh, the other great thing in the video that Jason Becker put up, if for those that didn't hear me talking about it, Jason Becker put up this great video of Eddie visiting him in '96 at his home. And it's so great. And one of the coolest things I loved was in the moments on it when he's playing guitar. There's some little practice amp or whatever, and you can hear him playing Me Wise Magic as well as Can't Get This Stuff No More, which was the two songs that came out on the Van Halen, the reunion brief with Dave for two songs thing that they did in '96. And those two songs, I love those two songs. You know, it was almost like they were just experimenting what would happen if we got back with Dave. And it was like, those are great little Van Halen tracks, you know, they're awesome. But you can see Eddie playing on them, and the wide chord voicings with close voicings and stuff that he did on Can't Get This Stuff No More. It's amazing. And watch him play in the Jason Becker video. He plays it, and you can see him, and it's incredible to see him. Okay, so the one time that I went up to 5150 and he played guitar in front of me, that's what it was like. It's like watching that video in front of your face, where you're just like, he's alone just playing the part, and he's lost in the part, and he's playing it, and it's so friggin' cool, you know? And it's like, God, that's cool, like hearing him do that. He's just, nobody played like that, you know? In rock, those weird voicings and, you know, the close voicings, and it's so neat. But oh, God, I love it. But anyways, Cameron Maxfield is asking, do you always mic an amp to record or ever just stay in the box? No, I stay in the box. A lot of the videos I do for pedals, if I do a chorus pedal or a rotary pedal or something that's stereo, many times I will go right into my interface out of the pedal and use plugins, because I love the way that you can get a great stereo image going. Like, say, rotary, I'm going like this because I'm thinking about spinning around in the stereo spectrum. Using a plugin. So there's these great plugins from Brainworks that I use all the time. There's a PT100 one, which is excellent. There's also the DS40 one, which is excellent. And I'll pull up those plugins in my UA console, and I'll put them right on the input strip, and then I'll just double one to the second channel and hard pan them left and right. And you'll get this huge stereo image. And I get a lot of people asking me, like, wow, what amp did you use on that? It sounds amazing. Like, what? And it's a plugin, really. So there's times when I really almost prefer it, because it's an easy thing for me to get that. I can do it really fast, whereas miking 2 amps in stereo and stuff would take me a while. I've got my mono mic set up, but the stereo thing would be tough. It's 1:31. We've been going 2 hours, so I'm going to go another 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to split. But it's been fun today, as always. Do I think COVID will hurt or boost the music industry in the long run, says Bluesman? You know, I think it's no question it's hurt the music industry. Clubs, venues disappeared, very difficult for them. Obviously, you know, and very difficult for especially like crew people. There's a lot of folks that haven't been able to do things like YouTube. And it's been really hard on them. So there's probably folks that left the industry that'll never come back, you know. On the other end of it, I guarantee you that clubs and tours and things are booking up right now for late 2021. And there's going to be, that industry is going to be like raring to go as soon as we can, you know. Like, I mean, tours, and there's been a lot of records released during this time. There's been a lot of people have nothing to do but record and put out music. I mean, people are going to want to go out. The primary engine for making money in the music business these days, the music business, whatever, is touring. So all the folks that are in that industry that have been hurting and getting, raring to go, it's going to come back hard, and so, as soon as possible, there's going to be a lot of music, a lot of live music, a lot of stuff going on. People are going to be getting out there as soon as they can. So anyways, we'll see what happens, but let's see. There's somebody in the top chat there, and he's saying something very nice. More Guitar says, this show we all know is better than any issue of any guitar magazine on the rack. Wow, you're too kind. Thank you. So worth the equivalent price spread. Some holiday cheer to Pete if we can. Dude, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I do. And I hope, your support for me warms my heart. And I hope everybody out there is okay, because I'm fortunate enough to have things like this that it's the crew folks and stuff and the other people in the music business, or maybe touring. I got a lot of friends that don't have this thing together because they just were always on the road or doing other stuff. And then like, it's been hard on them. So it's difficult, but so thanks for your support. I just really appreciate it. I'm lucky, man. I am friggin' lucky that I've got something that I can do during this difficult time, and it's not lost on me. I just feel really fortunate that I've had YouTube. What else we got here? Let's see. That's a good show. Angry Shoebox says, I'm glad I got to see EVH playing with the Saturday Night Live house band the night it aired in the late 80s. That was cool, wasn't it? Also cool was when him and Valerie were in that skit, remember? They were eating dinner and they had the roadies teching the dinner. See, I can remember that, but I can't remember names. Yeah, he was great on Letterman too. I loved it in '85. He might have been on Letterman more than once, I think, but that was cool. All right, on the bottom of the chat here, and then I'm going to split here pretty quick. It's going to take a while to recover, but recover we will, says Tech62. Yes, we will. Yeah, music's going to come back hardcore, live music, no question. What to use besides an EQ pedal to boost volume for leads without boosting gain in front of a 2203? That's Steven. Anything that you boost into the front of something like a 2203, I'm just thinking here, like anything that you use is going to be an apparent gain boost because you're going to drive the first tube stage harder and it's going to drive it into more saturation, distortion. But if you're saying boosting gain, like just boosting volume, a clean boost, a microamp, a Sir Coco boost. A Sir Coco is the greatest thing. If you're saying without boosting gain, and by gain, you mean distortion. By gain, I think volume, but I think what you mean is overdrive. I'm only guessing, but I think that's what you mean. A Coco is amazing because it's got the clean boost built in for a big full range boost, but then it's got that targeted mid boost. And what you're going to probably find, let me put this question up on the screen. What you're probably going to find is that that targeted mid boost is what you end up using most of the time because that's more like it's like a little bit more of a polite range master, the Coco. It's not quite as wild sounding as a treble booster, but it'll boost those mids in a way that it's just like, oh, that's nice. Like a little more mids. It's like you put a Duncan JB in your guitar or something for that one solo, and then you took it out to go back to play rhythm. It's a little like that. So to look at a Coco. Noise from Ryan's Basement is up there in the super chat, and he says, I'm sad I never had the chance to have much conversation with you directly, but I appreciate these lives. There's so much I'd like to ask. Well, dude, thanks for being here. Thank you. And I'm thinking, by the way, guys, of revamping my website a little bit to do kind of a club style thing. Because the forum, it's just been, I'm sorry if you're a member there, it's just been dead for a long time. And I have been, so it was a mess. And I've been thinking about doing a little bit more of that, where I can have a little bit more of a, like if I get a lot of emails about gear and a lot of questions, and this is my primary place where I answer those. So I've been thinking about how can I do that a little bit more just on a weekly and a little bit more like so what if we made the forum like a bit more of a club where you're a member and then it's a little bit more targeted. Do you know what I mean? So looking at ways of doing that over the next month or so, and maybe going to move that way. And then we can have some more back and forth and figure out a different way to do it. Because I just don't have time to do. There's no way I have time with all this, with the work to do and video editing and writing tracks and producing and stuff like that. And then when I do get back to going on tour and stuff, there's no way to do just all the email questions. But what if it's just one thing where I knew I had to go and do it and devote time to it because it's a member type thing. So that's my answer for that. I think I'm going to work in that direction. Anyway, thank you for doing the top chat. I do appreciate that. Peter Evans says, for the chair fund, Pete, enjoy the week. Great Sunday show. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. I do. And you guys are too kind. I appreciate all of you. Somebody else there. Who's that? The Juggernaut V2 says more guitars. What he said. I missed that one. There's my Peter Evans, my chair fund. Thank you. Yeah, I do. I got to make the investment in a chair. I'm only getting older. RS says, just a couple more questions. RS says, how many more drive pedals do I need? It could be none or it could be 10. It just depends on what you want to do. Personally, I like to have a lead, kind of warm lead boosty thing like an Archer that adds some mids and volume. I like to have a fuzz. I like to have 2 different drives, like a Jan Ray for warm, or maybe this, this or a Jan Ray or something for a warm kind of edge of breakup thing. And then a something like a Bogner Blue, which is what I use on my board to do a sort of lower gain plexi thing. That's just me, though. No 2 guitar players are the same. Kaylin Clark, thanks for doing the super chat, my friend. I appreciate that. You guys are all too kind. There was the Juggernaut. You guys are too kind. I don't join clubs, says Feel Button. Well, you can come here. You don't got to join my club. You don't got to be part of the club. Set up your Patreon page, says VLS. Yeah, I know. I should do that too. There's so many different ways to go with this, Carrie Miller says you should do a Reddit forum with a Patreon. Okay, some things to think about. There's a number of different ways to tackle this. Oh boy, I feel overwhelmed. My head starts going like this all of a sudden. I'm also thinking about all the videos I got to make and stuff like that. But I need some help, is all it is, And I've got good help to help me sort this out. I just need to take advantage of it. Set up a GoFundMe for your chair. No, I'll just buy a chair. But thank you. Okay, you guys, I should go. I'm going to go get back to work here, but this has been really fun, as always. Thanks for putting up with my insanity. Have a look at PC gaming chairs, says Jeff. Yeah, I'm sure those guys got it together. Guitar players and PC gamers, we're all sitting down all day on our butts. Need to get more exercise. Somebody's asking, can anyone post their music on Spotify? Yes, the easiest way to do it, though, is generally through, something like, I traditionally use CD Baby. There's other ways, TuneCore and DistroKid, which has sponsored some of my clinics and stuff like that, where you go and sign up for their service and then you send your music to them and they do all the registration and stuff like that and get your music up on Spotify as well as iTunes. And, CD Baby's been frustrating me a little bit lately, but they've been decent, but they sort of, decided for their physical store to go away and all that. And that kind of buggered me up a little bit. And I also find them somewhat, I don't know, they're just a little bit difficult. But DistroKid Noise from Ryan's Basement, he says he digs that. Music Cal Ronan says TuneCore. Look at all these and, do your research and then pick one and to get your music up there. Ruben from Argentina is asking how realistic the Axe FX3 is with respect to a real amp. They're great, I still think nothing will replace the real amp experience, but there's many things you can do on something like an Axe FX that is difficult to do any other, it's its own thing. Uli doesn't like the Axe FX, but the Axe FX is, It's a brilliant device for what it is. And, you don't need to hear it from me. Look at guys like, you see somebody like Steve Vai uses them in the effects loop of his amps, because he uses it for all. That's kind of what I used to do. I would use it at home for doing some direct recording and stuff. But then, and I think Petrucci and stuff uses it for, direct stuff sometimes, but he uses it with his amps. Neil Schon, same thing with amps. They're a great multi-effect unit no matter what. So if you're looking for a great reverbs, delays, rotary, all that good stuff, you can use them in that respect with your amps and then also go direct with them. It's the same as a Helix. You can do that too. These are all good options. I'm not saying the Axe is the same as a Helix. I'm saying pick the way you want to do it. Any news on reviewing the Neural Quad? I have it here and I am going to do it. I haven't cracked it out of the box yet because I just haven't had time, but it's coming. I think the review is supposed to be up in a little less than a month, so I better get on it. But got a lot to do. There's that. There's 2 other plugins I'm doing coming up. It's getting on to NAMM time, even though NAMM will be totally a virtual thing this year, but it's still that push. Everybody's got stuff coming out, so there'll be a lot of that coming. Buzzcrum Hunger says, where's the likes, guys? Thanks, Buzz. I appreciate that. If you don't mind on the way out the door, if you had fun, hit that like button. I appreciate it. I do. And that Santa Cruz says, speaking of Neil Schon, somebody explained his speed playing to me. He just followed me on Twitter yesterday. I was honored. He's a cool guy. I've met Neil a few times. A nice guy. And amazing player. I like his Instagram, by the way, where he's constantly playing different guitars. You're like, wow, how many guitars does this guy have? And he's always just improvising and playing his badass Neil stuff, and he's one of the most, he's a little like Eddie Van Halen in that way, where when he gets going and stuff, it's a little confounding, it's his style and it's the way he is. And it's like, wow, he sounds like, it all a blur. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, and, somebody was calling it the Neil Schon part of the neck, the middle part of the lower strings and the higher range. Who was that? It's Tom Bugavac was, I think, called that the Neil Schon part of the neck. Because he blazes in there, and like not on the top strings. I mean, he does that too, but I mean on the G and the D string and the A string, around in the up around the 12th fret. It's very cool. He's a great player. He's a legend. Okay, guys, I gotta go. This has been fun. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. More fun. Everybody stay safe. Have a terrific week. And more videos coming this week and all that good stuff. Thanks for being here.